Talking junk. Talking junk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every week with a new guest every episode. Always a great conversation. And tonight is no different. Tonight we have the author of Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes, Andy Dietrich. How you doing tonight, Andy?
Hey, good evening, Jason. Good. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I appreciate you coming on, gracing the podcast with your presence.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I gotta say, your intro. What do the kids say? It slaps. Like your intro has that building of mystere, that rolling power. So whoever did that for you, if you did it yourself, good job.
I did not. It's a producer friend of mine. His name is Glitch. If you go to Instagram, you'll see some of his work. He got a lot of good work with a lot of great artists.
Solid. No, it fits it perfectly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We worked hard in the collaboration with that, but if you could believe it, it only took him about maybe under an hour.
Well, definitely a good investment. No, it comes across real nicely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, were you always an author, or did you do things?
I don't think you're born into it, right? No, this is actually
some people kind of are.
No, I'm okay. We'll backtrack a little bit. So I published this about a year and a half ago. I am a IT guy by trade. I've done IT for 25 years, and writing is not. If someone were to say, "Hey, Andy, are you a writer?" I don't identify as one, even though I published a book. I don't. I see myself just as a dude who does IT work, who happened to write a book. So, no, to answer your question.
So how would a guy from IT fall into the book publishing business?
Yeah, so I realized over the course of me telling the same 20 stories over and over and over, okay, maybe 30 or 40 stories, that it was either a heartfelt lesson learned, it was a one-liner with a punchline at the end, or it was more of an introspective, moment of growth that I would, like I said, tell the same stories over and over and over. And every once in a while, someone would say, "You should write a book." And I go, "Sure, of course." Everyone just, says, "Sure, I should." But then one day I just decided to write them all down, and I figured, hey, is there something here? And there was enough to put 160 some pages, on paper, and here we are. So worked out pretty well.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. So the title is Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes. And the subtext, which I think really sums it up, is short stories about friendship, growth, and social misdemeanors. And I really mean that, right? So they're all short stories. There'll be either 1 or 2 paragraphs long to, I think the longest one is just a few pages. So they're easily digestible, easily consumed, little short stories about my life, the things I have done, the things I've done wrongly, I guess, and the times I've put my own foot in my own mouth. The things I've learned from it, the growth, personal growth, professional growth, the friendships I've made, the friends I have lost, unfortunately, right? There's a lot in it that kind of, if you read it, even if you don't know me, I think you get a good sense of who I am and where I came from and what my path has been.
It's a great title, by the way.
Thank you. I think it resonates, right? Because I've heard the phrase and it wasn't taken. I think part of coming up with any kind of creative work is your title taken, right? Whether you produce a piece of music, you write a book, or you make a movie, you can't just use something that's already been used. And
right, to my everything's luck, been used at least
everything, right? To my luck, Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes. I think at the time on Amazon, there were some dudes selling stickers with that phrase on it. And I'm like, oh, that'll take it. I'll take that one right there.
Yeah, why not? You got to grab something while it's hot.
That's right. Why I'm lucky. That's what she said, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's why I'm glad I grabbed Talking Junk when I did, because now Chris Angel's trying to steal my shit. But we'll get there when it happens.
He can pay you $10 million if he wants the rights to it, right?
Right. So your book is all about short stories. Now, are some of those short stories about other people's experiences, or are they just your stories?
They're primarily about my experiences. There are a few times when very dear friends of mine make a cameo appearance. There is a story about a good friend of mine getting really, really, really unfortunately drunk on some bad decisions that he's made, all in a very endearing way. That particular story is called "The Night of the Mexican Flags," and there's a reason why it's called the Mexican flag. There's a whole reason why it's called that, right? If you read the chapter, you'll see why. So a good friend of mine, Leon, is in that one. There's one of my favorite human beings in the world, Josh. There's a short story about how when he was deployed to overseas, he was in the military. He made a comment that he was missing the taste of bourbon. Now, he was stationed in a country where liquor wasn't allowed. It was a dry country. So having liquor, even when you're in base, even with your U.S. military, was not something that you want to be caught with or have on you. So I decided to, for the lack of better word, smuggle some liquor, across international lines in a way that he could receive it. Now, keep in mind that they scan, at least from what I'm told, they scan or X-ray these packages to make sure that no contraband would come in. So I found a fairly clever and creative way to like I said, sneak some liquor his way. And there's a little story about him talking about his side of that experience. There are a few more short stories, but I would say that for the great majority, it's about me and my shenanigans with other people involved in the background.
I mean, Andy, I gotta be honest with you. I have to play devil's advocate because I
Yeah.
need to know how'd you smuggle it in.
You also have to read it, right? So if you can I plug it right now? Is now a good time?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So if you go to andysbook.com, there's not a whole lot on that site. It's just me holding up the book. There's a link to the Amazon page. However, if you go to andysbook.com/gift and punch in your information, I am more than happy. Yep, that's the one right there. If you go to andysbook.com/gift and punch in your address and all that good stuff, I am more than happy to send you a signed copy.
That sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear exactly, and I hope to God it's not what I think.
You don't get a glitter bomb. I can promise you that. You will not get a glitter bomb, okay? Wait, is that what you're referring to? Is that what you're hinting at?
No. I mean how you smuggle it into the country.
Oh, okay. We're going back to that story. I used some creative thinking. Let's put it that way. You will see there's a lot of shenanigans I've done that came to just me kind of thinking a little bit more creatively. If you want to get into one of the juicier ones, so have you been to Vegas, by the way, Jason?
I have not. I do not live an exciting life to travel that much.
Okay. Well, if you ever do go to Vegas, first of all, you're welcome to come here anytime you want. What's that?
It's on the bucket list.
Please come, right? And we look forward to collecting your money, right? So we always appreciate your hard-earned money being left in my fair city. If you do go to Vegas, and if you do go to a nightclub here, if you do decide to, once you walk into the nightclub, you get a stamp right on your wrist. That's kind of like your re-entry stamp. The idea is that you get to leave the club and come back inside anytime that you need to, right? And they check the re-entry stamp and let you in, usually through a separate entrance, just to expedite the entrance. Well, they check IDs now at that re-entry point. Before me and my shenanigans, they used to never check ID. And I'll just leave the story at that. You'll just have to read the rest of it.
Now, are there any of these stories in there that might have got you in trouble with, like, say, your parents when it was published?
So, okay, there were a couple of things I did when I was a teenager that I definitely paid for them, right? But most of my shenanigans and tomfooleries happened when I was an adult, if you want to put air quotes around that. And I will say, so my mother was one of the first people I got to read the book before it was published. And she didn't know about many of my excursions, right? So a lot of the stuff she learned for the first time when she read it. And the thing that she said afterwards, she goes, well, she said something along the lines of, I'm glad you haven't been arrested, or maybe I should talk to someone, knowing that I know all these things about you now, all these illegal things. And look, I say illegal, but it really was more of, I don't know, illegal is a strong term. I definitely did some things that in the right person's eyes, unsavory, I like that, unsavory things. I've done some unsavory things that from the point of view of the right person may have raised an eyebrow or two. It may still to this day, but there's nothing explicitly, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that, or oh my God, you should have gone to jail for that. There's nothing to that degree in there. No.
I mean, everybody was a little bit of a degenerate growing up.
I believe so, yes. I 100% agree. I mean, we've all done silly things, right? And one thing
especially growing up in Vegas, how could you not be?
So I've lived here for only 20. I say only 20 years. So I was already, of legal drinking age when I moved here. So most of my adolescence was done in Germany, and then a good chunk of years in Alaska, and then a few more years in California before I ended in Vegas. But I will say, to your point, is that I think being old enough now, being the generation that we are, sure, we did dumb stuff when we were kids, but at least nothing was immortalized on Instagram. Nothing was captured forever on the social medias, right? Nowadays, these kids don't get to grow up
Right.
without that, right? Everything they do is some way cataloged online, and it's shitty, right? I mean, kids should be kids. You should be able to do the dumb stuff you want to do within the privacy of your own group of friends, you know?
Right. Right. And now with the whole cancel you movement, nobody can actually learn from their fucking mistakes. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a generation that's gonna point fingers, record you, and make sure that your life is a living hell for any type of mistake you ever make. So
I agree, right? I mean, can you imagine the generation that's growing up now when they run for office, which I'm sure some of them will when they get old enough, right? And then when they run for governor, mayor, assemblyman, whatever it is, say in 10 or 20 years, when they have their hearing and then they pull up all the stuff they did when they're teenagers. Hey, can you explain this one time when you, I don't know, egged this car and here's the video footage? Can you explain the one time when you, I don't know, like, I don't even know what kids do these days will get them in trouble, but at least, I don't know, I feel like everything will come back to haunt you when you get to that age. At least with us, sure, we
absolutely.
did it, but there's no proof of it.
Right. And if there is proof, it's very minimal.
There's very minimal. It's he said, she said. Nowadays, everything is digital. It's hard to get away from that. It's really sad.
Right. And if it comes out, you know exactly who put it out, and then you just
That's
go
right.
fuck your cousin up.
That's right. And then when you get elected, then you come after them, right?
Right. So Alaska, California, and then Vegas. That is
Then Vegas. First Germany, then Alaska, then California, then Vegas. Yep, in that order.
that's a very colorful living situation.
Yeah, thank you. So I lived in Germany till I was 14, and then my mother and I immigrated to Alaska. There's a whole side story to that, but let's just say that my mother has always been very much in touch with her spiritual side, and she had a calling to go to Alaska, and so we did. I did high school up there, right? Formative years between, I don't know, 14 till about 19. Then at 19
How does
and a
that
half,
work? Is it kind of regular like in the States? Do you go on a regular fucking school bus, or do you
yeah.
guys got to take like fucking planes everywhere?
No. I mean, I lived in Fairbanks. Fairbanks was whatever. I mean, it's just a regular old town. Just it gets cold in the wintertime. But I mean, we did everything that you would do anywhere else. We go to the movies. We get on the school bus. We skip school. We go to Denny's and drink coffee till 2 a.m. till they kick us out. Right? I mean, we did all the same stuff just in a small town setting. Not Vegas. Fairbanks is just a small town. Just gets cold in the winter. That's all.
I mean, for a city boy like me, you hear Alaska and you think remote, like nothing, boondocks.
There are those places too. Don't get me wrong. There is definitely bush living. Now, I didn't experience that, but there are plenty of people that I know that can tell you stories about literally living in the middle of nowhere, right? No running water, no electricity, or electricity from batteries, and you just have to deal, I guess, right? But it's their choice too. There's plenty of places in Alaska that give you civilization if you choose to seek it.
You ever seen anything paranormal or supernatural out there?
It was dark a lot in the wintertime. I'm not much of a believer in paranormal things, so if I did see something that looked kind of out of whack, I figured there's a explanation for it. So I couldn't really pinpoint one thing where I said, yeah, I can't explain that. I did see northern lights. I saw a moose, caribou, just wildlife, right? But I never seen a bear, at least not up close. Nothing crazy like that. No, but northern lights, yes, absolutely.
All right. So from Moose and Bear, you go to Bloods and Crips. Were you in LA or just somewhere different?
Quite the opposite. So I joined the military. I was in the Marines for 4 years. I was stationed in Camp Pendleton.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I was stationed. It was right in between LA and San Diego. So if you ever go down the 5 from, like I said, LA southbound, then you go right through Camp Pendleton. And if you turn to the right towards the ocean, those barracks that you see, and you first pass, if you go, like I said, south on the 5, you see these big boop buildings. If you've ever been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You keep driving for another 20 minutes, and then on the right-hand side, you see a bunch of barracks. Those are the ones I stayed at. So you can literally point at them and be like, yep, that's where he was at. And I got to say, I lived a pretty cushy life. Like a lot of people talk about, their crappy experience when they were in the military. They got deployed. They got, shot at. They came back from a deployment, not in one piece, whether it be physically or psychologically or emotionally. I have to say, I lived a pretty easy life while I was in there. I did IT work. I worked out of an air-conditioned office. I felt a little bit guilt when some of my friends went off to go to Afghanistan and Iraq. I was in right between 2000 to 2004. So 9/11 happened, right? A lot of things kind of boiled up and boiled over during that time. So some of my friends got to leave. I say got to leave. They got deployed. And I felt a little bit of survivor's guilt for not being able to go with them to do my part. On the other hand, it was out of my hands, and I'm just lucky that I'm still in one piece, like I said, both physically and psychologically.
I could imagine the just the experiences that your friends and everybody else gets to talk about, and it's good that most people came back intact, but it's unfortunate for the ones that
very, very right. And all we can do is just thank them for what they've done and support them any way we can. Right? They didn't choose it. Sure, people say that. Well, when you sign up, you have to expect that could happen. Of course, just like when you get into a car, you have to expect that you can get into an accident, but no one ever hopes for it to happen, right? No one wants it to happen, but we understand that's just the reality of things.
Definitely is. Now switching gears just into a less somber note.
Sure.
Do you think that you'll make a follow-up book?
So, okay, I've been asked that a few times. I think the next step will be an audiobook. I've been asked that a few times from some of my friends, like, hey, can we get this in an audiobook fashion? I'll probably work on that next. A part two is, I wouldn't say unlikely. No, I'll say unlikely, just because I've poured a lot of my personal stories into this first one. I don't know if there's enough material for a second one. Now, of course, if some big publisher were to say, look, we're going to pay you 6 figures to write a second one, I'm sure I can make it happen, but there just isn't enough. I feel like I'd be squeezing, moisture out of a damp rag, right? It's like there's just not enough there.
Unless you go out on a limb and try to get other people's stories.
Maybe, right? I mean, I don't know.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Andy.
There's a discussion to be had maybe later on, if the day comes, right? Let's focus on this one first and see where it goes, right?
Well, hopefully after hearing this, everybody will go to Amazon and grab your book, and it'll soar straight off.
I totally appreciate that.
Digital shelves.
I would love it.
Now, what out of the whole book, what is your favorite story?
Okay, so this is the very first one, and it's titled. So the book is divided into 2 parts. One is like my silly stories, like the things, the tomfooleries, the shenanigans, my most endearing moments, and the second half is more like life lessons and more somber moments. So let me pick one from both sides. So the first one, I think, the one that sets the tone nicely, is the very first story called "Are You Russian?" Okay. So what happened was, several years ago, I went to the university here in Las Vegas, UNLV, and I was rushing a fraternity. Now, at the time, I didn't know that's what that was called, right? I just joined a event where there would be a bunch of fraternity brothers and a bunch of prospective fraternity pledges, right? And I sat down. I didn't.
Bunch of women. I get it.
Well, in this particular one, there weren't any. It was all dudes trying to get to know the other dudes that would potentially join their fraternity. So it was kind of like an interview process, right? I didn't know much about the process. I just figured I'd show up and make some friends and see where it went. So I remember sitting down at this big round table, and these fraternity brothers sat down next to me. They're trying to make small talk, and one of the guys said, "Hey, are you Russian?" And I said, I thought the question was a little odd, and I said, "No, I'm actually German." And he thought it was the funniest freaking thing. He started laughing. He started poking at his buddies, like, dude, this guy's funny as hell. No, he said he was German. And I was just completely bewildered. I had no idea why that was funny. I didn't even know why he would think that I was Russian.
Listen, I'm American, and I don't know why it's funny either.
We'll get to the punchline in a second, right? So you're probably as bewildered as I was, okay? So he says, no, seriously, bro, are you Russian? And I go, no, seriously, I'm full-blooded German. And he starts cracking up again. He gets more of his friends in it too. And I don't know why this is funny. I don't even know why you think that I'm Russian. And he finally realized that I really had no idea what made that so funny. And he was like, oh, no. Okay, no, I'm sorry. He's like, dude, no, are you rushing? Are you rushing? Like rushing the fraternity. That's the term that they use to, like, it's the interview process, right? And I go, Oh, yes, rushing. Yes, I'm rushing. Yes, absolutely. So we got a good laugh out of it. And then at the end, he goes, "Why did you think that I want to know if you're Russian?" I go, "I don't know. I was just as confused as you are. Why did you know that?" So,
No, I get it completely because there's a saying my parents used to say that I'm Puerto Rican, I'm not Russian, so I'm not Russian anywhere.
no. It's kind of like how inappropriate can we get on the show? Pretty inappropriate, yeah?
Very inappropriate as much
Okay,
as you
cool.
want.
Well, this one isn't quite that bad. Maybe I'll dial up a little bit. It's like you ever heard of the Mexican judo?
You don't have a knife, you don't have a gun, you
That's
don't know
right.
nothing about me.
That's
It's the
right.
Puerto Rican judo too, man.
Is that right? Okay. And the other one from that side of the book I'll share with you was so I was at the PX, the personal exchange, basically just like a store you can buy things from on base in Pendleton, and I was buying some liquor. I was like 21, maybe 22 years old, and the gal behind the counter, she goes, "Can I see your ID?" I'm like, "Sure." So I gave her my Alaskan driver's license. Now, keep in mind, this is Southern California. You don't see a whole lot of Alaskan driver's licenses, right?
Right.
Especially not on base, right? Where a dude is buying liquor, right? So she looks at this and she kind of looks at it kind of funny-eyed and she goes, "Huh, Alaska must be pretty warm down there." Now, I'm going to pause here for a second. Let that marinate in your head for a minute, right? So she said Alaska must be pretty warm down there. And I was trying to figure out what she was trying to get at. If she was trying to be funny. And I said, "What do you mean down there?" And she says, "Down there, it's got to be pretty warm, right?" And I go,
She thought it was Australia, didn't she?
Not quite. That would have been a lot more, I don't know, would have made a lot more sense. And I finally got it out of her. And so she said, "Well, when they show the weather forecast, they have Hawaii there and Alaska down there." And I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
"Oh my God, yes." I'm like, "No, no, oh no, oh honey, no." I said, "No, Alaska is way up north next to Canada. We're in between Canada and Russia." And then this girl, this young woman, then had the gall to say, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "No, bitch, I just lived there for 5 years. Of course I'm sure. Jesus Christ."
You dumb fuck.
She meant well, right? She meant well.
I guess.
And then, so I think those are my two favorite ones said off the top of my head from the first part. And then the second part, like I said, is more like introspective, like some life lessons, some personal growth. I think the one of the easiest to digest one is the idea is that life is like blackjack. Now, Jason, have you played blackjack? Do you know like the basic rules of blackjack?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So you'll probably be able to pick this up pretty quickly. So there are some hands in blackjack you cannot win, no matter whether you hit or you stand. You've already lost the hand, and I feel like
Right.
there is a really important parallel to be drawn between that and life. Right? There are certain situations in life that you just cannot win. Right? No matter what you do, all you can do is take the hit and then try again.
Right. Absolutely. But you live.
But
You live to fight another day.
Did you ever watch the show Weeds?
I dabbled. My wife watched all of it straight
Okay.
through. I've
Okay.
seen some episodes.
Okay, so if you ever seen them or seen the first couple of seasons or just any season, right? It all has the same kind of flow to it. So Nancy, the main character, she has a way to get herself into most amazing situation, just sometimes just through dumb luck, right? She finds herself in
Right.
this phenomenal spot where she just has it all. But her flaw in the show was that it was never enough for her. So she tried squeezing more out of it, which then invariably landed her on her ass. And then she had to redo everything from scratch in the next season. Because usually that was a cliffhanger that something bad would happen. And then the next season she would build herself back up again.
Right.
And I found an interesting parallel between that and life. And the title of the chapter is called "Don't Pull a Nancy." The idea is that when you have a good thing, hold on to it. Don't try to squeeze
Right.
more out of it. You have a good thing. Don't fuck it up.
I like that. Don't pull a Nancy.
Don't pull a Nancy. She had everything she wanted, but it wasn't enough for her, and she fucked it up.
Right. I mean, there's parallels to everybody's life with that too.
Mhm.
Everybody's taking advantage of a good situation once or twice.
Yeah, people get greedy, right? I mean, if you watch people play, I'm using the blackjack or the poker analogies, right? People lose these games because they get greedy. Once you have what you want, walk away. Walk away.
Right.
There's always tomorrow.
Right. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them.
I think it's the biggest thing, right? Knowing when to walk away from something is a very, very difficult thing to do. It takes I wouldn't even say like a big person, but it just takes that knowing
Takes
when
a lot
is
of
a good time to walk
willpower,
away.
a lot
Willpower
of
too, right?
discipline.
Absolutely. When you're in a high, right, whether it be with friends or work or gambling or whatever it is, when you're in a high, not like physical drug high, but we're in a high in life, it is very difficult to pump the brakes because you're already on the roller coaster. You want to keep it going. And it's very
Right.
difficult to come off of that. To your point, willpower. Absolutely.
And it does, it goes for anything too, because if a situation is not benefiting you, you got to know when to pull it out.
Yeah, that's what she said, right?
Right. Right. We always tend to leave our mess behind, though.
Well, yes, I agree with that. Love it.
Andy, I'm gonna give you your time and your big screen layout. Let everybody know where to find you, where to find your stuff, and what we can expect from you next.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for listening. Thanks for having me. Again, if you go to andysbook.com, there is a link to the Amazon page. If you want a free signed book on me, I'm more than happy to send you one. I have a whole stack of them here. If you go to andysbook.com/gift, punch in your information. Again, I'm more than happy to send you a signed copy. The only thing I ask after that is that if you, once you get to the end of reading it, if you could please leave me a genuine, and I mean genuinely genuine, leave me a genuine review on Amazon. If you loved it, you can say that. If you didn't like it, you hated it, say that too. Like, give me some honest feedback, please. I can take it. Other than that, there's a contact me button on there as well if you want to get in touch. Other than that, that's all I got.
Sounds amazing. Can you just let them know? Thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk.
Thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andy, for coming back on. I'm definitely going to send you my information. I want to read that book. And once I read it, I hope you'll come back on and we can talk about these a little more in depth.
Absolutely. I have 160 pages worth of content. So we picked out 3 stories today. I got plenty more.
All right. That sounds good to me. And I know everybody's wondering, how the hell did you smuggle it? So go right now. Go straight to andysbook.com. Put your info in there. Get you a signed copy because it's going to be worth it. Andy, thanks again for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is all mine. I'll get right back with you. Let me close this out. And there you have it. Like I said, every week Talking Junk is on here live. Now, if anybody, any podcast tells you that they are the originator of live episodes, they're fucking lying. We did it first. We've been doing it for 4 fucking years, and we're going to continue to do it until our larynx falls off and we shit it out. Until then, tune in here every week. We're going to continue to have this great content, these even better guests, and knowledge for that ass. So thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk.